preparing. Should be only a moment, I think.
All right, I started the recording. I also saw we are on Facebook now.
Yeah. All right. Great. It's begun. So, hi, everyone, brothers and sisters, and of course, mums out there, and all ascending in this most glorious, auspicious time, despite the trials and tribulations we must go through, and also to transition this reality for the good of all. So, uh, today we're graced with Sister Laura Martin from Canada, and poor Sister Nya, and I. And what we're doing, we're still comprising the panel to unite the moms worldwide and to expose more fully and more in depthly the actual intent with the uh, kidnapping and stealing of the children worldwide by the social services in Canada to whatever degree, child protection services in the US, youth care or child care, I believe, in Austria and Germany. So around the world, there are different labels, if you will, for the same institutions that perform the same roles, and I need to say are complicit in very savage crimes against families and the children, and the huge business that is created as a make work project is one thing for the governments to make this a very lucrative business in some countries, as we're seeing, and also more notably Austria and Germany, as we began to get some early numbers and statistics out of there. I'll just say one more thing, and then I wish for Sister Laura to introduce herself to our, just to update everyone to some of our, this is not validated yet. However, to our understanding in Austria, it is somewhere between 7,000 and 21,000 a month that the government pays the institutions and the levels of that for each child. If you do some quick math on that, I think it would mean that for one child, dependent upon the child, that it's about $280,000 is paid by the government for one child to these child care centers and all involved for 1 year. Can you imagine that? 280,000 euros. If we're to put that into Canadian dollars, that's way over. It's probably 330 $1,000 1 year that the government is able to put this much money into. So of course that's just one statistics to retain the interest as we go forward and what we discover and what we uncover, and also the truth and what we share. So without Rick rambling, dear Sister Laura, will you please oblige us and give us your background, if you will, and also your knowledge of this, what is currently happening that has reached, let's say, the pivot point. It can no longer go forward as it was. Um, so, please, without further ado, Sister Laura.
First of all, thanks for inviting me and having me on here. I'm very blessed to be part of this program, and if we can help get some kids back into the right hands, that is what it's all about. So, I was a certified rehab practitioner for many years within the school system here in Canada. And I worked as an in-home support person. So I was working with young children with disabilities, pre-kindergarten kids. And there was a team of us. There was psychiatrists, there was physical, occupational therapists, there was speech language pathologists. It was a whole team of people that would work with these children. And I worked with them in home and delivered the classroom component to the kids in home with their families. And I was also the liaison with social services here in Canada. And so if there were any issues that were brought about in regards to the family, whether it was, signs of physical abuse, if they weren't having their basic needs met, food, clothing, shelter, I was the one that sort of intervened and contacted the families and worked with social services. And um, what I noted is that most of the kids with most of the issues were those that had already been through the social services program and placed into foster care. And so these were the kids that were being fostered out already. And of course, foster families are paid, a pretty decent dollar to look after these kids and to feed them and look after them. Those were the kids that usually had the signs of physical abuse or neglect. It was rarely, with the families, husband, wife, single mother, single father. It was rarely those situations. And most of these kids were just super talented kids that had been misunderstood. And so they needed support with their families. Their families had to learn, how to deal with their behaviors, how to deal with their sensitivities. So it was just a matter of offering support. Um, I know also in regards to the court systems here in Canada that they are very, very much failing. Um, there were a number of us here in Saskatchewan that got together to sort of relinquish our fraudulent birth certificates. And of course, that that never really happened because no one within the system here in Canada was going to assume responsibility for that fraud. Um, as far as the court systems here in Canada, I am also in the middle of a civil case that is taking years and years and years to resolve. I think we've been at it now for 5 years, and it doesn't look like there's any resolve coming. Um, the judicial system is all very closely knit. The plaintiff and defendant lawyers and the judges all sort of predetermine the case when or if it even gets to that point. What they do is try to postpone any court situations whatsoever because there isn't the amount of judges. Judges are stepping down, they're being removed. So everything here in Canada is starting to unravel as well. And so there are so many of us that are just caught in this system, whether it's the kids being trapped in this beast system, whether it's innocent people that have gotten, tied into legal situations that really shouldn't be happening at all. It's just man-made constructive situations, right? So if there's anything we can do to
Indeed.
try and get these kids back to where they need to be, into the loving homes with their families, whether it's a single mom, a single dad, um, that's where these kids need to be. They don't need to be farmed out and put into a social services system and neglected and abused within the system. Sometimes those foster families fall into hard times and those kids are, who knows where those kids go, right? So I think it's a universal
Absolutely.
problem around the world. So,
Indeed.
yeah.
If I may, you touched on at least three very beautiful points. You know, the main thing is the interference by the government and these services into the family units. And that is the problem that creates even more stress, more disharmony, and it creates criminals out of these children. And with this, also the psychological conditioning to condition the child back in to conform to a beast society itself. And yes, this is a beast society worldwide. I mean, it's savage. What kind of a society allows 3,300 or 33,000 people to die daily worldwide of hunger when there's actually plenty without going too far into that? As for the legal system and what you had shared, Sister Laura, with your currently have a civil case of about 5 years. It is the design of the beast system with its artificial man-made laws, but it's also purposely, intentionally designed like this. And for at least, two reasons, two prominent reasons. One being, again, is that the government, if you will, likes to make jobs and work for people. And this is the thing to keep their system going, to keep people busy, if you will, and caught up with the illusion of money and the requirement to make it. Um, However, I won't go far into that. I'm summarizing as much as I can without rambling. I'm holding Rick back so he doesn't go off on too many tangents. However, they're all important. So, uh, and with this, it's the stringent policy and the design of the system, as you said, to dissuade parents in any rightful and equal and let's say a prompt, timely justice. The justice systems worldwide are designed to prolong it, and part of that intentional evil tactic that is there is to dissuade ones. So ultimately, ones will give up, and their children will be gone, but many will commit suicide or go into psychiatric hospitals, the parents as well, in the more uh, desolate, traumatic cases, if you will. And the whole system is designed like this, not only to lengthen out without the parent getting any closure, because the system is designed to create stress and animosity. Everything is about energy in this world, and the evil knows energy, and the evil knows to itself the value of stress, the energetic stress. But without going deeper into that again, so their tactics are to prolong any closure for the parents, which is the psychological torture with that. It's a different thing. If a parent loses a child that dies, then there is more of a closure on it, and the parent can deal with it, in their own way. However, when children are taken, that psychological torture goes on and on every day, constantly putting stress from the parents out into reality, but not only for the parents, also for the children. The children are then typically in a place of psychological confusion. They don't know what to do, they don't know what is coming. And also, what the children will do, they're very creative at adapting to situations and at always protecting themselves, meaning that then the children will begin to tell stories or even lies to protect their security when they're in these foreign places. So it's part of the psychology that goes on with that. But getting back here quickly on track, again, yes, the system is actually intentionally designed to do this, as we're seeing it's not supportive. Now, this is not to name all branches and all involved with child care services, because obviously, yes, there are some good ones, and let's say some little departments that are supportive. But it's also these little departments that once they're in there, the good ones, they begin to see the big picture and how it is not right. They begin to see through the illusion and the actual intentional construction of the system that is its underlying motive and intent is to create the stress in whatever way it can, and also to take the children for psychological experimentation in the least, and conformity. And again, with this, I love citing the Little Danes experiment in Denmark. That's where they took the children against their will from Greenland to attempt to conform them and to turn them into little Danish citizens. And, this just come to the light more recently. It's been in court, I think, just 2 or 3 years ago. And of course, we have the infamous residential schools at where that underlying intent come in there to separate, not only to separate the children from their parents, the native children, but also to separate these children from their identities, from their heritage, from everything that they were, and their strong belief systems in Creator, if you will, directly. So to impose another religion on them, but also in the with the intent, even though, let's say, Christ and God is a good intention, and it's so important to have, the darkness would manipulate that and put a bad picture on it in attempts to overthrow the identities of the individuals in Canada and in the residential schools, and of course the children. And the real truth with this is, as I spent a lot of time in Canada and Saskatchewan as well, and I've spoken with survivors of the residential schools and the macabre, very dark stories and their truth and the trauma they still carried and what they witnessed. It was very,
Yes.
very sad.
I
But
uh, I took I took
go ahead,
statements from
please.
them.
Thank you.
Sorry, I
Oh,
worked
did
for
you? Excellent. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I worked for an organization called Honor Walk, and I took statements from a lot of these people in regards to the residential school settlements. And most of them, were very aged. Most of them didn't see a lot of their settlements. Most of them had to have physical scars, of their abuses in order to see their settlements. So again, that whole residential school and the settlement and the reconciliation was a little bit of a farce too. They sort of touched on what may have happened, and they made it look like they were reconciling and they were settling with people, but it was really mishandled, and I'd say almost 80% of the people that did statements never saw any settlements whatsoever.
Yeah, trying to be brushed under the rug and covered
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
And that is the
Trying to
same
make
old.
it look like something was being done, but it
Exactly.
was
And one thing that divinely popped up is what was going on as well in Manitoba and Saskatchewan, I believe. You may be familiar with it, was the switching the native children at birth and putting them with different parents as an undercover experiment that they would observe these children. And I believe just perhaps in the last few years, it was 50 years ago, I believe, when some of this began. Could you give us any information on that experimentation that was also uh, by the governments kept ahead of the government of Canada in attempts to hide it? Anything on that?
I'm not real up to speed on what happened in regards to the Indigenous community, but I know that here in Saskatchewan, it was sort of uh, I guess, the mastermind of the MK Ultra program. And I know for a fact all this human experimentation went on because my mother had postpartum depression after having my brother, and she got committed to a hospital, and it was all MK Ultra testing, and she came home just a completely different person. So I know that there was all kinds of
Was she in
testing being
Was
done.
she in Montreal?
No, this was
Was she in
she
Montreal,
went.
Laura? No,
No, she
thank
was
you.
in Edmonton, Alberta. So, and this would have been the early 60s. So, I know that there was a lot of this stuff going on, and it wasn't just to the indigenous people, it was everywhere. Oh,
Indeed.
yeah.
We brought up another great point. Uh, when I was speaking about the switch at birth. So what I need to say that's not only and was not only isolated to Canada. Again, it was for the most part what I would say worldwide that this form of experimentation is done. Uh, However, in this time, also, once we can get some more public worldwide evidence to this effect of what I'm saying, it also supports more of the important reason uh, for paternity tests, DNA tests by the father. And for that simple reason, these experimentations are ongoing as we speak today, all sorts of experimentations. And in Sister Nya's case, what we see, her children, what they're subjugated now to, it's very obvious, and the underlying intent is very obvious. But just jumping quickly back, for all of our viewers, and for the moms, regardless, the highest form of accepted proof at this time, if if you're in a custody battle with let's say, psychological, um, and distorted or depressed father or what have you that is causing problems, it's very important to have a DNA test done for the simple reason, as we just touched on, because of so much experimentation worldwide. But also, when we look at the basis of a court setting and we look at the law of conjecture, if you will, simply, and with the law of conjecture, it really is truly can become hearsay by a mother to say, yes, he is the father. For at least right now, what I had shared, we do not fully know what goes on in the hospitals. We do have evidence that there is switching at birth as well. Now, I don't want to take this further into the mother aspect and the possibilities of that. However, at least to support the mother, there should be, uh, in any court case, if a father is manipulated to go against the mother, again, I say it should be a DNA test, not conjecture, not hearsay. And also, with a recent study done in the US, or a recent poll, I believe it was decimal 5% of, I forget the number, maybe 8,000 or higher, that were polled, mothers. And out of that, it was decimal 5% said that they had immaculate conception, that there was no sex involved. Uh, so even though it is not to any degree any evidence worldwide of this, when you have such a huge number out of the population, out of a micro example, it needs to be considered as well. Is the father the real father? What is the most um, a valid way to prove that? And that is with the DNA at this time. So, having said that, realistically, no court can proceed in a custody battle for the father unless there is DNA, because there's too much speculation and conjecture that is entered in there, and that is not truth. It is not law. It's not the basis of law. They cannot proceed on an opinion. Again, it ventures into the place of conjecture, and that is not what a legal system is supposed to do. It defies the principles of truth, which is the principle of law. I gotta take a breath. That was a long wind. Do you carry on, dear sister Laura,
Oh, okay.
if you will?
Yeah, I pretty much summed it up. Like, uh, I know the systems are failing here. They aren't working for the people. They definitely are not working for the children. Um, there's a lot of neglect and abuse within these systems. And of course, children with disabilities, broken families, they seem to be the targets. They're very easy targets, whether it is through the school system, whether it's through extracurricular activities. Um, yeah, it's a universal problem, and the child trafficking is huge. Anybody who denies that this is happening, hasn't seen these kids that they have recovered and they have found and the conditions that they've been in. So there's the biggest money to be made is in child and human trafficking above drugs and guns and everything else. So, you know, things really escalated here in the last 20 years, and the corruption and the
What
evil just got out of
what have
hand.
you indeed, what have you experienced, if you will, with this systematic abuse, is what I'll call it, by the child care services? Have you actually witnessed any underlying intent, at least subjective, to what I have said or in alignment with that? What is your experience with that?
Um, to me, working as a rehab practitioner and with these children, it was the kids that were already in the system that had the long-term deficits. They were the ones that were abused, they were the ones that went missing, they were the ones that, you know, just had long-term detrimental effects. And you basically want to do everything you can to try and prevent the social services, prevent the courts from intervening. And you really got to fight in some cases. It's a real struggle because there's big money at stake,
So,
right? Um,
indeed.
yeah.
So for some clarity, then, what I'm feeling, what I'm beginning to get from you, and also in alignment with what Sister Nya and I, with some more information, is that actually, because of these children that are put into the child care services, that traumatic experience of being separated from their families, the end result, the biggest percentage of the time, perhaps 82% of the time, is what these child care centers are at the end of their, how will I put it, at their retention of the children. It's producing about 82% delinquents or even criminals, if you will.
That's
So,
ex That's
You're saying
exactly
yes.
That's exactly what
Wow.
is happening. You know, these
Yeah.
kids don't have the nurturing, they don't have the boundaries, they don't have the rules, the structure. And so, you know, I even did a stint out here at Saskatoon. We were working on building a horse park, and we worked with, um, they called them urban campers. So they were people that were also trapped in the system, and they had been apprehended for thefts or vandalism or whatever, and they all came from within the system. You know, they didn't come from homes where there were families and structure and boundaries. So the systems are creating, you know, yeah, the delinquents or the people, the children without structure, stability, and then it just escalates. It just becomes a long-term problem. So, you know, that early childhood development is gonna make or break them. You know, it's really important, very important, and to have
Absolutely.
stable structures within the schools or within the home. Um, what I was starting to find, I didn't stay in the school system very long because we moved and went to Saskatchewan and just went ranching full time. But um, what we found was the kids that had the support and the structure, even the homeschooled kids, those were the kids that really excelled. You know, they became exceptional. If they fell in between the cracks into the systems, they struggled. They struggled for life. So it's, you know, I think it's really super important that we try to keep as many kids as possible, you know, with their families in their homes and support the families. You know, right now what's happening is everybody is struggling financially. The systems are,
System is designed to do that as well. Yeah. And
yes, yes,
and realistically, the system cannot blame someone for being in poverty because the
financially
actual
struggling
system, yeah, the
has
system
created it
created it itself and then imposed the blame and the guilt, which is
on the
sadistic
parents.
and psychopathic.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
feel at this time, with the subject you were just on about the gifted children, I feel, Sister, yeah, I think it's time to come in, Sister Nya, and to share and collaborate a little bit. But also, I know Nya's children, Akua and Aurora. And let me tell you one thing about Akua. I think he's 5 now, but I met him when he was first about 3 years old, I believe 3.5, perhaps. And he was the first child that was able to telepathically communicate with me on such a powerful, distinct level. He was sitting under a tree when we visited with Nya, and I was walking sideways away from him to, I think, go over to speak with Nya and Fem. All of a sudden, boom, it come in so powerful, I had to go back, and I turned my head, and oh, it was so beautiful and so real. And these children are very gifted. But I'll let Sister Nya speak.
Yes. First of all, thank you so much for sharing everything, and I'm totally with you. It's very similar to what I'm observing, you know, because I'm also talking with a lot of mothers as well. And it's everywhere the same thing, meaning like, you know, instead of there's help or assistance for the families, the children, or the mothers, they are taken away. And also my research confirms that, you know, meaning like if they are brought, you know, into those places, you know, where no one is nurturing and caring for them, you know, they got all criminal. So most of them are criminals. But also what I observe is that there are a lot of children, especially, how to say that? gifted ones or, you know, strong ones who are not fitting
Yeah.
into the system, who are raised, you know, by very loving and nurturing parents, you know, in a very free way, you know, which is supporting who they are, their identity, and also their gifts. They are mostly taken away. So there's and it started to it's starting to rise, you know. So that is also something. I also have a similar case, you know, with a mother. Her child also has special needs, and she got help. But the thing is, what I always see, you know, with the pattern is that they are, you know, because of too many people, you know, trying, you know, to step in. There's a lot of stress put on to the child and the mother. And if something is happening, you know, they blame the fault onto the mother, you know, and take away the child, you know. What I also know is that they have, you know, in Austria, they are allowed to intervene or, you know, to step in, you know, with children with special needs until the age of 21. And just right now they have raised it to 24, you know, which is very, very high. But also, you know, there's a lot of beautiful children. They're very powerful. And it's so interesting because, you know, I'm talking a lot with ones, and those one who are the strongest one all believe in God and all have abilities and are awakened ones, you know, that's keep them going. And they are very high consciousness, knowing what's going on, right? But also in the same time, you know, also a component is the part with the resist, you know. So I met a lot and I saw a lot of pictures of those children, very beautiful and powerful star children. Some of them already have abilities like you know, able to get premonition, watching you know, into the future. And my children, you know, like Akua has the multidimensional sight, so he's able to see multidimensional. Aurora also sometimes, and you know, truly they both believe in the ascension and in angels. So but you know what they did is to turn that around, meaning like, you know, telling them that's distorted, it's not true, because they're not in that conscious level to understand. Or also, you know, the point, the best thing is to raise a child is somehow not to raise it. It's what I figured out, because you know, the best thing is to hold space, but also, you know, I mean, in times of danger, you know, like a car or something, you know, you have to guide them, right? But truly, you know, the children of the new earth, I would love to say new earth, they're here to change this. And how could you change this if you are following the same path over and over again? You know, you don't fit in into this, you know.
Yeah.
I saw my child getting very frustrated, you know, and she's very intelligent, you know. So you both of them, you know, they have a very high intelligent and caring and loving way. But what I'm experienced is also, you know, that they, as Rick has said, they went into a survival mode, right?
Yes.
So they cut off their abilities, they cut off their ways and how they think and questioning things, you know, all the things that is somehow a threat to the system, I would say.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you raise them, you know, to be powerful beings, you know, don't care what others says, just go your way. You are perfectly fine with everything. You are just perfect the way you are, you know. That is the best, you know. So that's all those kind of things, you know, is very related to my case, you know, meaning like that's all the points they try, I have to say, they try to attack me. But also, you know, if you go higher and you turn the tables, you know, because you can, you know, because you have a lot of information and knowledge, they twist everything, you know, they try to find other things, or you know, and so on and so on and so on. And what you mentioned with years, yes, that's how it goes. You know, I'm speaking with a lot in Switzerland, Germany, Austria, all over, and everyone thinks everyone really thinks they could get the children back, going through court. But the thing is, what I see is it's just an illusion. What they try to do is, because you are so strong and empowered, to break you, to get you back into control, that you are cooperating with them. But it doesn't change the situation. It
No.
just put you into more in a desperate state or hopeless state, and it goes on and on and on, and try to trap you into this,
Yeah.
so, and consent into this. So
Yeah.
that's what
More
they want to
stress.
do. Yes, and it takes years,
Yeah.
but also, sometimes you can see, a glimpse like someone is winning, but it's just, it's just an
It-
illusion. Then afterwards they come back and take the custody
yeah.
again. The thing is, to find a solution, to stop this, because I also truly believe and want to see that all the children are coming back to the parents, and that there's support and assistance to the parents and the children. Because there's also a lot of mothers coming in asking the child care service for assistance, and then the child is taken away, which doesn't make any sense. And there's a lot of money going to those foster families or places, instead of investigating, not investigating, invest into the family, but also the court
Right.
system. It's just, in big cities, there are so
Yes.
many cases, they are overwhelmed, but they don't improve it, right? So,
Mhm.
and everyone is working together as well, so
Yeah.
I truly know, and yeah, and I also can confirm with my observations what you are sharing and saying.
Yeah. And I understand those kids because I was one of those kids. I was diagnosed with ADHD. I think I was about 5 years old. I couldn't sit still in my chair at school, so they take my chair away. Well, then I couldn't stand still, and I got the strap for it, in those days. So I had a really hard time fitting into the system. So I know how these kids feel, right? Because they're not designed to fit the system. They're designed to come break the system, and there's millions of us around the world like this, that just the conformity and the rules and it just doesn't work for us, and it doesn't work for the kids either, especially majority of these kids coming in now with all these super talents and abilities, right? It's just not going to work, and they're the ones that are being targeted. As far as the court system, uh, I have, I don't know if I know anyone who's ever been through a court system, or that there's a winner. There's never a winner once the courts are involved. The lawyers, the bar associations, those are the winners. They're the ones, making the money on this process. It's inhumane, and it doesn't work at all. It never did, and it never will. And what we need to do, instead of going in and confiscating the children, is to be supporting the families in whatever support they need. If we could take the money that the legal system is hoarding, and give that to the families, that would solve a lot of our problems, right? But it doesn't work for the system, the confines that they've created. So we have to change that however we can, and the more people standing up and saying, look, this is unjust and this isn't working and we need to change this, the more power we're going to have. But there are still so many people living in so much fear of breaking the system or doing something wrong or becoming part of the system. And we can't have that. For the children's sake, we have to stand up and we have to say there's got to be a better way to be resolving this. Right? I mean, that's all there is to it. People have to quit being afraid. They have to see the injustice, and they have to say, like, our children are our future. They are the ones that are here to help us. They've been sent to help us. So we need to be fighting for these kids, and we need we need their support. We need them to help us break these systems. And if social services, the courts are stealing them and taking them, they're taking our power away, not just our children. Right? Well, I get all emotional about this because I was never able to have kids, but
Beautiful.
they're very near and dear to my heart, and huge, huge little helpers that have come to be here to help us. So, that's why I'm a part of this, trying to help you guys. Like, I think it just needs to be done, and it needs to be done now. Yeah.
So beautiful. And
Yeah.
thank you,
Yeah.
sister. I just wish to say quickly, and I know Sister Nya's got something. Uh, Ignorance is no excuse whatsoever, and neither is incompetence to this degree by any government. And it's because of these two things that very quickly you do see that there is the underlying intent, because it is actually unprofessional behavior and it's part of the illusion. Anyone with common sense and with a heart would not do this to children. So it shows that all of these are involved. They are morally corrupt, even down to the ones that are taking care of these children in the institutions. They are complicit. They are accomplices to a huge crime that is no longer acceptable. And we can go through the whole chain. Lawyers are complicit, judges are complicit, all of them, all of the levels and all of the bureaucracies in any legal system. And and a very important thing as well is, yes, what these child care, child protective services, all of this, what it does, it robs the children of their evolving ingenuity and unlocking it. And Sister Laura brought up the statistics, but also the experience that she has at seeing with the homeschool children, where they are nurtured and supported by the system rather than condemned by the system and locked into a prison of stress for however many years. And where the homeschool do excel, this is also the case with Sister Nya and her children as well. The children were going to a public school. However, all during the course of that, Sister Nya has been complementing their learning with the higher consciousness, the evolving consciousness to go in to the civilized reality. And very quickly, they attempt to use this to her, against her, if you will, because of their own fear, and try to conform and diminish the children back in to what they think is right. And really, there is no legal grounds for what they're doing because it's only a matter of opinion. There is no actual proof. And when we put the opposite incontestable proof towards their legal system, they ignore it or don't look at it and continue with their underlying intent that is so exposed that it is intentional what they're doing. And again, in Sister Nya's case, it is uh, disclosed intent in the way I just said of what they're doing with the children. Nevertheless, so Sister Laura is going to be part and sit on our beautiful panel that we are constructing with professionals and to whatever respect in freeing the children worldwide and forming a panel to that effect to also end all of this worldwide to whatever degrees that it takes to do that. But also, moms and dads, we need you to come forward and to unite. We have a Facebook group that is set up. Sister Nya will give the name of that perhaps later, and we will put it in the comments section of this video and when we put it out. So we need all to join. And as Sister Nya said, and Sister Laura, it's futile to fight a system that has the one intent to take the children away from you and outnumber you. So it's common sense to join together, make the biggest voice worldwide once and for all, and put an end to these immoral, corrupt legal systems, or at least the part of it that is causing all of this psychological terror and torture and damage to society. It has to stop. It's no longer accepted. If you are one that is working just as a janitor in these child care institutions, you are actually supporting it. You're condoning it by not standing up, leaving your job, or coming forward and sharing what you're actually seeing, what is going on there, um, so that we bring this entire thing to justice as soon as possible, to righteous justice. This is wrong. What is occurring? It is morally wrong. Um, so with that, Laura, what else would you like to add, or Sister Nya? I said my spiel for a little bit anyway.
Um, I I think a time has sort of come now in this whole process where people just have to quit living in fear, and the power of money seems to have a lot of control over people. Um, but I think the time is coming where we all have to just stand up and say enough is enough, and not even just in regards to the children, but in regards to all our systems that are failing, that don't work for the people. They never did. They were designed to leave us um, enslaved, and we have to demand change, and it's up to each person individually to become strong and to say, you know what, I have no fear. If you're going to put me in jail for speaking my mind or doing what I need to do, then go ahead. I will do my time. I will whatever, right? Um, but
But
we
they
all
can't
have to
lock us
stand up.
all up. They don't have
Yes,
enough room.
exactly. There's strength in numbers, and there's a lot of people out there that are just waiting for someone to come save them or for somebody to come do something. But we're the people we've been waiting for. We need to stand up. We need to take a stand and say enough is enough. Like, no one's coming to save us. We need to do it ourselves. And that's what this whole ascension process is about, right? Learning to rise and ascend and to be sovereign and and powerful. We were designed to be powerful creatures, and here we are waiting for the military or somebody to come save us, and that's not going to happen, right? It's time. It's time now. Like, the world can't keep up at this pace. The earth is ascending, it's evolving, it's changing, it's purging, and so do we. We need to keep up with what's happening on the earth. So the only way that's going to happen is to get our strength and be strong and rise up. That's
Perfect.
about it for me.
Very powerful. Very powerful.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
totally with you. It's just you can see, especially in those processes and cases that ones get very distracted, meaning like they got a case and they were like, oh, maybe I will win, I have to do that, I
yeah,
have to stand still, I cannot go public. It's just to distract them. As you can see,
yes,
I see many who have cases with the prosecution office, with other places, and waiting and waiting, and it got delayed
yeah,
and delayed. Everyone is waiting for something and none of them is standing up. But that's what they are trying to do, is to separate you, right?
yes,
To not
yeah,
unite. So
yeah.
it's so important, to unite and to stand up and also to go public. Um, oh, and now I forgot what I wanted to say.
Yeah, I have those moments too. And like, I agree that, the apathy needs to end. And the problem, the problem with the children and the court delays is this early childhood development for a lot of these kids. These are critical times for these children. We can't afford delays and courts, and that's all they're going to do. They're going to delay and delay and delay. And in the meantime, the kids are waiting. Their youth is being stolen. Their childhood is going missing because they're trapped in this system. So the systems are not going to work for the children or the people ever. They were never designed to do that. So if anybody has a child who is being trapped or coerced into this system, we need to stand up. We need to rise, and we need to set a precedent. Somebody needs to do it somewhere, and we have to start somewhere. And once it starts, it will snowball. But the apathy and the waiting and the delaying isn't going to get us anywhere. It's just wasting precious child's time.
Yes, exactly. It's also, I'm also observing, cases, in America as well. So what I'm seeing also, I think there's soon a demo. I don't know how to say it in English, a protest, a demo, a demo.
A demo,
Yes, a
or
demo
yeah.
in Berlin, especially related to this topic, with the um, child welfare.
Yeah.
There's also,
Is that a demonstration, you mean, Sister Nya,
yes, in Berlin,
currently?
in
A
Germany.
Yeah.
demonstration in Berlin?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes,
Yeah.
so there's something going on, but also, I'm also in contact with other ones who are working in organizations as well. They have shared with I that they have already, brought up, like a lawsuit, with a lot of mothers. But the thing is, if you have that, in a package, it's easier, for them, to rack it, to put it away. So, so I'm also working on it, to get more mothers in Austria, but they are all in fear. So, but as you said, it's very important, to stand up right now because, truly, it doesn't make any sense. If something is not working, why are you still doing it? Why it's still existing, because as you can see, there are connections, related to the Second World War time, when they changed the law. So the child welfare is allowed to step in. So I also have someone who is writing up something very interesting, which is showing, that nothing has changed, you know, since back then. It's just hidden. Everything is an illusion. It's also, important, to stand up and not to feed the illusion and the system anymore, especially, for the children. So, yes.
Yep.
perfect. If I may take the liberty of this moment to share with everyone, we're speaking about unity. To all the moms out there, come and join us, moms and dads. It's mostly moms that have been targeted. And we touched on the reasons why the moms and that powerful unconditional bond directly between the mother and the child is part of the reasons. Because this is demonic, it is satanic, it's psychopathic, oriented, or let's say based, would be the better word. Uh, so the three of us, we are all members of Divine GPMS.world, which is a worldwide referendum to bring in the replacement system for humanity. Now, it's important that any viewer that is watching this to go and check out the website, and if it resonates with you, to add your consent. But also, if you're a guardian for your children, or a mother and a father, And if your children are at home and if they are below the age to understand what GPMS is, you can consent for them. And even if a child is 1 minute old, their consent, their vote counts the same as an adult, because what we're doing is creating the new free and abundant civilized world. And this savage world, this beast system of ridiculous torture that everyone's in, it's not going to exist very much longer. The bigger that we are making GPMS dot world, divine GPMS dot world, the bigger we make this, the smaller the beast system gets, and everyone is soon all free with all of your children um, back with you. So it's important to know what divine GPMS is, and it's also important to know that not only is it a very comfortable monetary system, it's importantly the simplified divine laws, which is based on the principle of all law, which is human rights. And it is the full intrinsic, unalienable human rights. And this is important because also divine GPMS dot world, with every vote, every consent worldwide, it is a ratification, meaning that once we have the majority vote worldwide, this new replacement system, which is an all-inclusive system just generally outlined on our website, it is enacted into law. No longer is this beast system there that you need to contend with. You don't need to fight for your children or any of this, because all of this psychopathic nonsense and evil is gone forever. This world is in a time of great change. These children, as Sister Nya and Sister Laura said, that are born today, they are the next generation of civilization, not savagery. That's why so many of them will revolt against the current system and the current conformity of it. It doesn't resonate with them. It's not these children. These children are from this heaven on earth, new divine GPMS world that we are creating. They have been seeded here to populate and to keep the new reality intact. They are not part of this beast system. All the children are fully innocent until the system begins to get them and to turn them into criminals and delinquents and dialects of, I didn't pronounce that correctly, but all of these adjectives. These children are not the system. And it is the moral obligation of everyone worldwide to support this new world for all the children, to save them as well. And instantly, if we had this new system ratified today, within a week, there is no hunger, there is no poverty worldwide. Everything is eradicated that enslaved and suppressed humanity. And of course, all evil is eradicated. You need to know the power of what we're speaking about. We're not quite there yet, but as we go forward and bring more and more together in unity, as we said, this system cannot compete against the powerful number of the people. And no one should be accepting what is occurring worldwide with the system. We don't need to attack the governments. We don't need to attack the child care services. All we need to do is unite and outnumber them with the replacement system. And this is the most conscientious thing to do. It is the most higher consciousness and competent thing to do. This is incompetency in this system. And as Sister Nya and Sister Laura said, it's futile to try to go through this legal system that is designed to create the criminals and to create all of the animosity, the stress, the financial burdening, with paying perhaps some as hundreds of thousands of dollars. I spoke with just to reference a divine feminine from Australia about 2 weeks ago to assist her in her case. I didn't ask her, but she said her husband, her ex, had already spent $700,000 on top lawyers to try to get the children. Her next move was to spend $50,000 on a law firm to go into court with her. Now, where does it end? And this is what Sister Laura was saying, because the system's designed to profit off of it, the capitalistic system. So again, where do we go in this interview from here? How much more can we say? We speak absolute truth and common sense. And how about Sister Laura, Sister Nya, what do you have to contribute right now?
Oh, I just want to add, something to my current case, meaning like, as an example, they took away the children from a loving and caring environment, and they put them into a children care center, and they fabricated, the ex fabricated stories, and he's working, with the child welfare to take away the children. And now they plan to put them into a children's place with psychological guidance to support the children being separated from I. That's completely crazy. The solution would be the children to be given back, into my care and custody. But what they do is complete opposite, and no one is listening to the children. So they don't want to be there. They are like prisoner. They don't have any rights. So that's also the important thing, with GPMS, because, everyone is equally, also the children. I always raised, and guide the children like that we are equal. And that is also some kind of thing, which I feel is so, so, so important, because in the court, it's always about, the parents or, fighting, it doesn't create any solution, brings more harm. But the most harm is done to the children, and no one is listening to the children. No one is caring about them, So, and they are sometimes treated in a way more worse than a criminal. And that has to stop, because as you can see, it literally doesn't make any sense at all, what they are doing. And they are, they don't have any evidence, or they don't based on anything, they just do. So as you can see, if we don't unite and if we don't stand up, it will continue. If you're still feeding the beast system, if you're still going to the court, if you're still feeding the lawyers, the evaluators, what have you, and all those places, because truly, when I'm looking at my case and seeing how many people are involved into this, everyone had the choice to do the right thing. And every one of them, did the opposite thing, meaning to separate the children from the mother, which is the worst thing to do to a child, if they're in a loving and caring environment. It doesn't make any sense at all. The only thing that you can see here is clearly that they are clearly, targeting me, and also clearly want to have children. The ex is being used by the child welfare. He doesn't know. It could happen, as you can see, he wanted to have the children before, but they don't give it to him. As you can see, it's not straight, it's not honest. The beast system is just, yes, I don't have to put that in words. I have to bring this up, as an example, because in the past I went through the court system, and you never win. It doesn't work out. So that's where I am, just to show that craziness. They are giving them a psychological guidance that they can live, that they are supported with the mental health, being separated from the mother. That's, it's just, yeah, I have to share that because it's so crazy, to understand.
Yeah,
I cannot understand that.
It's a torture test which could be resolved in a minute if they just asked the children where they wanted to be. They don't do this. So that tells us that the system isn't working, right? It's so obvious, it's so simple. The answer is so simple, but it doesn't happen because it's all about making money, and it's been corrupted. It could be resolved in a second, but it doesn't work that way. So we have to change that.
Yes.
That's it.
Absolutely. And yeah, it's such a powerful point. Yes. And it is so simple. Yes. What do the children want? And the mom and dad are going to agree with that, and this is the thing, but this shows you that it's actually not about the care and the good intentions towards the children. It's about the money again, every time. So that is what Sister Nya and all of us know, that is so crazy with it, and how it has gone on for so long.
Yeah.
It's so
And
obvious.
I think most court cases are like that. It could be resolved in a heartbeat between the defendant and the plaintiff if there wasn't a judge and a lawyers involved, just ask what the misunderstanding was. What do you want? What do you need? Let's resolve this. It happens that easy, but that's not how the courts work, right? Like, we're not Neanderthals. We don't need lawyers and judges to be representing us. We could, I think we can all speak fairly civilly, and we can work for a resolution. We don't need a court system that is going to be a torture test.
Exactly. Who knows the children better than their parents? It's not someone else with an outside opinion. And, it's just that obvious. Uh, to share with ones also, we have tips and instructions that we will say is an unprecedented strategy. In the first parts of it, what we do with somewhat a strategy, a timeline, a strategy, is we confront the system to ask for, let's say, answers to some very distinct, important questions. Not only do we ask for answers, their reply, if they will, we also observe their actions. So, beginning as part of this process, what it begins to do is to prove intent, incontestable proof of intent. And so, just to keep this simple for everyone, this strategy and procedure, what we have, it takes you in to the legal system somewhat, but it takes you in as an equal objective one to begin to confront it with this process. And then what we are doing, we're not quite there yet. We're doing this with Sister Nya. Then there are higher principles of law that we began to apply, and different contracts that we begin to do as well, because the entire B system is based on contractual law. But once ones know, you begin to use this to your benefit. And as well, if they begin to deny your contract, if you will, then what they further do is they nullify and void their own contractual law, which leaves them in a place of complete, null and void, if you will. Now, also with this, the publicity is so important and the unity. This is why everyone needs to begin naming names, put it out public as well, because for two reasons: the public pressure, the strength in numbers, but also to attract others that have experienced harm as a result of these certain judges, the psychological evaluators, whatever it may be. Even lawyers. Lawyers play both sides of the game. So what we do during the course of this is, you could say, we legalize them out of their legal proportion and out of their authority. But again, it's a process that we do it by subjugating them simply with their own laws. And when they don't, again, abide by their own laws, it destructs their legal system. I don't want to take this so far out there yet, but the reason why I'm saying this, we do know what we're doing. And what was stated, all of you moms and dads, you have lost. Very rarely does anyone ever win. And again, in this, if you do have out of 100, one or two that may have won and got their children back, it's only because the system allows you to make it look good. Because if the system was 100% at taking all of the children, it would be more noticeable. So it's part of their tactics to allow one or two to win as well. And this is what the false hope is there on. Because when they allow one or two to win, it creates a false hope for the others to keep fighting in the system for the same win. But that win was only given by the darkness to make it look good by the system itself. So you need to understand more of the tactics and tricks and incentive, nefarious incentive, what is involved with all of this. And again, I don't wish to go into the higher proportions of consciousness, what's occurring. I'm attempting to keep it as layman's terms, common language, on that lowest level as I can. And it's not to demean anyone. It's for I to know that many moms are in fear. And when you're in fear and stress, your consciousness does not think good and you do not have the clarity. And that is part of the darkness to do this. So you don't think your way out of that beast system. So intentionally, it's designed to do that. So this is why I attempt to speak with the most clarity. And I do that a lot of times in my rambling to give more of the story. But we do know what we're doing. And importantly, with Sister Nya's case, another important part, instrumentally, when you begin to do this, is you give them the opportunity to do the right thing. So you write this in a written form or what have you. And it's important because what you have presented is a lawful remedy. And this is like what Sister Laura was saying about, let the children speak. It is the most sensible, lawful remedy. But in the lawful approach, you gave them the opportunity, the remedy, and this is the proper mediation and adjudication approach, if you will, that they would also have to recognize in the process, meaning that you did not try to fight them, you tried to be rational, which is law-based and reasonable. You took that approach. There is nothing psychologically wrong with anyone when they're rational. It's when they are irrational, which they have a psychological problem at not recognizing distinct, incontestable truth. Then again, it is done deliberately and intentionally. But it doesn't matter to us to that degree. What we do is you prove your way out of it through a course of understanding some simple techniques and instructions of what to apply. But again, your strength in numbers. You cannot do this alone, anyone. You need the numbers, you need the public support, you need everyone to come together as one. And then you put more publicity on it when it's not acceptable. Uh, Sister Nya, with the Berlin protest, if you will, perhaps we'll refrain from demonstration because it got that word demon in it. Perhaps a protest. Do you wish to? I didn't know this, and I'm so happy to hear it. Could you just give us a little quick summary on that, perhaps?
Oh, just give me a second. I may have to put it, in the comments because a friend of mine have shared it. And she's also one of the mothers where the children was taken. So she's working, very intensely, on researching and investigating. But there's I think on the weekend in Berlin. So Berlin is a very big state, to do this and to get a lot of attention for this especially. I also saw, many other like smaller ones, but I think that is a bigger one. So they will also get there, to create more, how to say it, more attention. But, there's also ones, trying to change things in court. But from my opinion, the thing is, you can't change it. The thing is, the beast system, the whole system, as you can see, is made so that you can't escape, that you don't wake up, that you're still suffering, that you're under stress, that you are sick, or, all those kind of things, as you can see. And I just want to add, like, there are psychological evaluator at the beginning, which were criminals and have done, experiments on children, just to share that, how the system is based on, and also, with the school system, when you look at it, it never changed the whole time, and also in prison, you don't have to ask to go to toilet, right? So as you can see, the whole system itself, it's not made for your benefit. It just creates an illusion that you think it will, it is made for your benefit, but it's not. But yes, I will share that note, with the protest in Berlin in the comments.
Yeah, thanks. Sister Laura, getting back to this, you mentioned we was looking at the sovereignty and with the birth certificates, what you mentioned, and to no avail. Again, they cannot go forward because the numbers aren't big enough, and they just brush these things under the rug aside and they ignore it because really it's not a threat when it's only a handful. However, again, when it's millions, it becomes um, something else. It becomes a evolution, a revolution of change. And that's again, change as in CHANGE. That's what is needed here right now. But what I wish to ask is when we look at this birth certificate, some of the governments perhaps use this as an entitlement to ownership of the children. What would you wish to say about that?
I believe that's true. I mean, and that's how we become part of the system. We're given a little QSIP number on the back of our birth certificate. As soon as we are born, a doctor or nurse or someone comes in and says to our parents, well, you must register this child. You have to give them a name and they have to have a birth certificate. And I'm sure a majority of those doctors and nurses that are doing it don't even realize that they are enslaving us into part of this system. You know, we were born sovereign until somebody signed on the dotted line, right? And then we became part of that system. And, you know, I know that we're traded on the stock market. Every time you graduate or you're given a diploma, your value, you know, you're worth more money. It, it's a huge, it's a huge system, and it's hard to fathom that, you know, this is how they finance us. This is how they mortgage us. This is how, you know, we're given a trust fund, a Cesta QV trust worth of value, and we either accumulate value or we don't. But they use our intrinsic value um, against us, basically. You know, that's how we mortgage our homes. That's how we get loans. It's a huge spider web that, you know, has just been entangled to deceive us. And I think the more people that become aware of this and, you know, want to break free of this, the more power we're going to have, right? But there's a whole lot of rabbit holes and information to be unraveled. And I know there was a fella even down in Texas that had realized the placenta that they had thrown in the garbage was actually the sovereign body, and then the baby became the, you know, part of the American corporation. And, you know, he's tried filing in courts, but he can't get any filings because of course they're not going to accept his story or his statement of claim. So, you know, we're all back to square one again. And so the more of us that become educated about these frauds and all the trespasses against us, and the more people that rise and stand, the more we can prevent this from happening to more people and more babies and more children. You know, it's all about becoming educated, and information is knowledge, and we can't be afraid to be informed.
Absolutely.
That's
You know, with that, what we could look at with the birth certificate again, when a child is registered, uh, you know, the contract is not clear exactly what the child is being registered into with the birth certificate. So with the contract, you know, one of the first things, a contract has to be precise and all information has to be put there. If not, it's null and void. Another thing about a contract is for to be a valid contract, there has to be an opt-out clause, and there has to be a provision to activate that clause at any given time by any of the parties. So, having said this, this is contract law. And again, yes, if it's only one trying to put this forward, the governments and the legal system will just try to push it under the table to hide it. But what I'm saying, these are two actual truths of an actual contract, which is important. For the more that you have with this knowledge and education of what I just said, as Laura said, knowledge is power again, and it's not that difficult. What I just said is very powerful, important knowledge that was said in a couple sentences, even though Rick Rambles, some articulate one, could have put it in one sentence, but nevertheless, it is the power with us. So it's important again. This leads me to my next question. Laura, with you, Sister Laura, what what actual law does Canada use, to your knowledge, to claim custody of a child?
I don't know if there is a law. Um, I don't believe that there is. I mean, we have a constitution, but the constitution that is written here is also fraudulent. There,
with every,
if there
as
is a
with every
law,
country.
it's a man-made law, and really it would be irrelevant to a sovereign baby, a sovereign person. So
But what is their
yeah,
legal claim? Yeah, what law? They have to have a legal basis for that. It has to be provisioned or written in their laws. So this is what I'm curious. What is giving them the legal jurisdiction or authority to impose themselves upon the rights of another and steal their children? What actual law are they using? Is it any? If there isn't any law, then it
no,
cannot be lawful.
that's right. And yeah, as far as I know, there are no laws. They just
So
assume
it's
that,
actually I need to say it's actually not legal, meaning it's
right,
illegal. We know it's unlawful, but within their legal system, it's illegal if they cannot substantiate it by any defined law,
right. And
which I don't think.
we consent by just assuming that there is a law, when in reality there isn't. There is no law. We do not consent.
Exactly, exactly. The assumption that there is a law. And
Yeah.
we need to find out what laws are they using in what countries. And as we know, it varies from legal jurisdiction to legal country, legal justice system in every country. So yeah, what are they actually using? Really, they don't have there is no merit, there is no basis for a lawful standing with us as well. So again, these these laws and also constitutional laws, it it needs to come from the place of the people. See, also with what is provisioned to the extent in international law has no enforcement for the simple reason that the governments uh, that comprise the international law, they're all complicit. So international law is actually null and void. It doesn't exist. It's only a gentleman's agreement for the governments to do whatever they want. So it's all a guise for the people. But importantly, in event of tyranny, if you will, because an international law is fully compromised, then the onus and the obligation and the act of law resides with the people again. They are the ultimate authority. And this is also what we're beginning to do with Divine GPMS.world as we construct that law of the people as well, which renders all of this harmful beast system, artificial man made law useless, nullified, and void. Um, so yeah, again, at tearing down their immoral, unjust legal systems, this would be good to know, as well, so we could look at that. And I consider and I proclaim myself well versed in, I would say, all areas of law. But this was one that Father just give I the other night, Father God, if you will. What law are they actually using, especially in Ya's case? So uh, this means something. So we'll look into this and find that out uh, as well.
Yes, because they never got my consent and the consent from the children. It was very interesting because the judge was very strictly asking me, and you saying that is kidnapping. And I looked at her and I said, yes, it's kidnapping because it's against my will and their will. But also, I think we also have it in the papers. It's because of it's slavery as well. You know, they just decide, where they are going, what they are doing, that's also unlawful. What I want to add is I just figured out that the demo in Berlin was actually from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. this day already, so it's over. So sorry for that. I thought it was on the weekend, but it was already today, and they were at the front of the child welfare. So I don't have any news with that, but I'm just correcting this right now.
Thank you so much, Sister Nya. We've been, I think, almost 2 hours in here. Having said that, Sister Laura, uh, I believe you're going to be on our panel as we create it, and Brother Kevin Annett, or Matt Annett, I believe you know of him as well, and we're anticipating to have some more on here when we put it together. We do have prospects for sure, but again, everything with this, there's a divine um, timing with this, as we recognize very distinctly as well. We'd love to get everything done in the blink of an eye, but there are times we only can do so much. Then we must divinely wait as well. However, we moved promptly when we need to and what we need to move with the divine direction. So, having said that, is there anything else of great value that you, or of value that you feel you could add at this time to this meeting?
No, I've pretty much summed it up, so I'm good. But yeah, I want to thank you for allowing me the opportunity at least to be part of this. So things will come. It's
Oh,
going to
the
take
pleasure
time,
is
but
ours.
yes, thank you.
So grateful you joined, and very sorry, my English is sometimes I really appreciate everything you shared. It was so much information, but also very powerful words as well, and very on point as well. And I'm very, very grateful you stepped in, because I can feel your love for the children and for humanity, and your trust in this. So
Thank you.
very appreciate
Yeah,
this. And also you, Rick, for everything that you are doing. Really. So
yes,
much
yeah,
gratitude.
yeah, for sure. Thank
Thank
you.
you. You're being such an amazing. You're welcome, Sister Laura. You're being Sister Nya, such an amazing example with all of this as well. The internet was a little bit unstable, but just to reiterate, you as well, Sister Nya, you're right on the front lines with all of this, and you're important worldwide, and being the example and being showing the other moms, no, we don't give up. We're actually getting stronger, and we know all of the tricks of the darkness, and we come here to persevere, not allow the children to be stolen and taken, for sure. And we have the leagues of heaven supporting us, shoulder to shoulder and in our back, and nothing is stronger than that omnipotent. So, all of you watching, come out of your fear, and you've got to stand. You've got to stand shoulder to shoulder now. There is no other way. So, with that, I thank you all, and love, light, and gratitude. And I'll close the Facebook one down, and we can stop recording, Sister. Yeah, you wish.